Hello and welcome to Lunch and Learn Wednesdays presented by Venture Portland. I'm Jacob Falkenberg, the Communications Director at Venture Portland. And today we're going to be talking about business district membership campaigns, a very important thing that your district should be thinking about year-round as it's how you generate members, generate board members, generate revenue for your associations. But there's a lot of things to keep in mind that you might not know about to have a successful membership campaign. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. So, strong membership. Why is it important? Well, as I said, it's the main driver of revenue for your business association. It also results in volunteers for your business association. As businesses join your association as a member, the idea is hopefully that you can incorporate them to the association in volunteer capacity, whether it's a board member or serving on a committee. And also strong membership gives your association credibility, right? The more members you have, the more legitimate your organization is, and in turn will lead to more interest in the organization and more confidence in the things that you're all doing. So how do you measure strong membership? Well, obviously the percentage of the businesses in the district that are members are really important, right? You want to have a large percentage of the businesses in the district being represented on the association. But you can also measure the membership by the diversity of your membership. So that includes the business mix of your members. So that's, restaurants, retail, service businesses, home-based businesses. It could be geography. So if your district is larger and you have a couple of different commercial corridors or nodes, does your membership represent all those different corridors or nodes? And then finally, the more traditional sense of diversity is in the racial and ethnic makeup of the business owners that are members of the association. This diversity should be represented also in your board, right? So if you have a lot of restaurants as members, you should have a lot of restaurants being represented on your board. But it shouldn't be just one type of business, right? You want to have restaurants, retail, whatever the mix in your district is, you want to have that as the makeup of your board. Strong membership can also be tracked by the amount of member engagement, right? Are people coming to your events? Are they participating in your events? Are board members showing up at board meetings? Are they responding to emails? Are they sharing the content that you're providing on social media? And then finally, revenue, right? By bringing in more members, you're increasing the association's revenue, you can do more things. So by tracking the increase in revenue year over year, you can also kind of gauge the strength of your membership through that. Okay, so how do you grow membership? How do you build strong membership as an association? And really, the only way to do it is by building strong relationships with district businesses through ongoing engagement, right? So not simply asking them to join, but by growing a relationship with them through business visits, through invitations to events, through just emails to them, maybe asking them, how's business going? What issues are you struggling with? And how can we help with that? Growing that relationship over time before making a membership ask is the way to do it the most successfully. Because once people have a better understanding of what your organization does, how legitimate you are, who's a part of the organization, then they are going to want to be a part of the organization as well. So membership is momentum. The less members you have, the less engaged your members are, which leads to less revenue, less credibility, fewer board members on your board. And then that affects your ability to provide benefits for your members. On the flip side of that, the more members you have, the more appeal your association has, which leads to more revenue for your association, more credibility for your association, more board members. And that in turn leads to the ability to provide more benefits. So benefits are the most important thing in generating members and getting interest in the organization. And then that leads into a cycle, right? Where the more benefits you provide, the more members you have. The more members you have, the more appeal you have, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you want to be a contender. Running a business association is a lot like running a small business, right? You got to have a business plan. You got to know your customer. In this sense, your customer is the small businesses in your district. Who are they? You want to have a product they want. And the product that a business association produces are the benefits that you provide, right? You want to find the right price for that product. So how much is it going to cost to produce benefits that are worthwhile to the businesses in the district? And how much do you need to charge for membership dues to pay for those things? Then once you have all that figured out, you got to make the sale, right? After developing relationships with the businesses, going out and soliciting members, whether that's in person, via email, via phone, meeting them where they're at, and accurately describing the things that you do so they understand, so they feel confidence in you and decide to join as a member. And then finally, once you've got members, you still need to deliver the goods, right? You have to do what you said you were going to do when you were having those conversations, the things that you said that you were going to do in your membership benefits listed on your website. Deliver year over year. Otherwise, they're not going to come back, right? So what does that take? So there's a lot of different components to a membership campaign. One of the most important being a business contact list, right? You need to know who's in your district and how to contact them. And this is going to change and evolve over time, right? Businesses come and go, ownership changes, they move. And the only real way to generate that is to walk the district, interact with businesses, note who's new, who hasn't been engaging with you recently. Google Maps is also a really great way to collect this information. Unfortunately, the city doesn't provide this information. So it's up to the business association to make sure that their contact list is up to date year over year. So when you are ready to make a solicitation, you know that you're reaching out to the right people with a current list. Again, strong relationships are also important. As I said, you can't make that ask until you have a relationship with that business. So working on building those throughout the year and finding the right people to build those relationships. Offering valuable benefits, right? So taking a look at your benefits list each year and making sure, does this still make sense for the business mix? Does this still make sense for the state of our city? What are we doing and what can we do and what can we change what we're doing to be more valuable for the businesses in our district? You want to have a professional approach, right? So creating professional looking materials on letterhead, using your logo that fit your brand, carrying that through to your website to really make it seem like you're a legitimate organization, which you are. You might not have the budget of a larger organization, but you can still look the part and people will have confidence in that. Once you have your materials, you also will want to do a 3-month membership campaign. And we'll talk a little bit about what that looks like, but that's a big piece of it too, is taking those materials and taking those things that you've developed and getting out there and sharing that with the businesses in your district during a campaign. And then of course, you need to have tracking and payment systems. So your tracking system could be as simple as a spreadsheet or a CRM, and that's going to tell you who was a member last year. Have they rejoined this year? What were the dues that they paid last year? Are they upgrading their membership? Are they downgrading their membership? Who hasn't renewed and needs to be maybe reached out to? And what is the total amount of membership revenue we're bringing in? And are we meeting our goals as set forth in our budget? Payment systems are also super important, right? Some businesses are still old school. They want to pay by a check, but a lot of the times you want to make it as convenient as possible for them. So that could be having a Square reader if you're meeting businesses in person and being able to take credit card orders right there in person on your phone, or having it integrated into your website where they can put in their own credit card information when they're renewing their membership. What doesn't work is expecting that business list to fall into your lap. As I said, the city will not provide that information, and it's up to the association to make sure that that list is current and complete. Sending an email and waiting for members to knock down your door, that's not going to happen either. You know, people are so inundated with emails these days that a simple email might be a good start to your outreach, but it's not going to be the end all be all, right? You got to meet people where they're at, whether that's with a phone call or an in-person visit, multiple emails following up, just to kind of cut through all the chatter, right? Sometimes it even takes snail mail, which people aren't as accustomed to getting these days. But if you have professional looking materials, that could be a way to get their attention. What also doesn't work is vague or mismatched benefits. So as I was talking about a little bit earlier, what you were doing last year or 10 years ago might not be as effective as what the businesses need now. So really looking at what are you offering to the businesses? Is it still valuable? Maybe checking the pulse of some of the businesses in the district to see what they would want and what they would be willing to pay for benefits that you could provide. So speaking of benefits, there's a couple of different types of benefits that you can offer. And when you're building your benefits list, you want to make sure you kind of have a little bit from each category, just because different types of businesses benefit from different types of benefits. So the first and most obvious one is your signature event, right? And in the past, for a lot of districts, that was a street fair or, you know, a holiday tree lighting or something like that. But these have kind of evolved over time to be maybe not as cookie cutter, right? It's going to depend on the built form of your district. Maybe there's a specific business in your district, an anchor business that can host an event, or a sidewalk sale, or maybe a passport promotion, that sort of thing that fits better for the built form of your district, where you might not be able to close down the street, or you might not have like a public park or plaza to host an event in, but maybe there's something else that fits into that signature category that you're going to do each year and try and grow each year, but something that you're known for that drives traffic to the business district. Then you've got your advertising, your marketing, your district identity. You know, that's taking out ads in the paper or you know, putting up banners, anything that helps the general public understand what your district is known for. So that could be, you know, a social media campaign of some kind, or a newsletter, things like that, or public facing, but still help to understand, you know, why they should visit, what makes you unique. Then you've got your member networking and education. So, you know, quarterly mixers that you're doing, maybe you've got a guest speaker that can provide some benefit to the businesses, help them to develop their business skills, that sort of thing. And advocacy, right? Do you have a unified voice as a district? And do you use that voice? And that could be through letter writing campaigns or showing up at city council. What are you doing to represent the businesses in your district, to tackle some of the issues that your district might be facing? And then finally, you've got Venture Portland's benefits, which you can always offer as a benefit to your businesses. So even if you can't afford to do a lot of stuff, if you're a Venture Portland member, your members can come to these lunch and learns. They can come to our member meetups. They can submit to be featured in our weekly newsletters or on our social media. So, you know, don't forget to include us. If you're looking for benefits to put in your list might be seeming a little short. We're always a good option to put in there. Okay, so different types of businesses, as I said, like different types of benefits. And you're thinking about, okay, what types of businesses do we have in our district? Retail is always the obvious one, but there's also food and beverage, service businesses, you know, medical, health and wellness, that sort of thing. Home-based businesses is one that a lot of districts forget about, but depending on your district, you may have people working from home offices. They might not have a brick and mortar, but they still want to engage, right? So being able to reach out to them, to provide opportunities for them to get their business in front of other people can be wildly beneficial. You might have some industrial manufacturing businesses in the district as well. And of course, they're not going to benefit from the more food and retail focused promotions. So what can you do to provide some sort of benefit for them, whether it's a sponsorship opportunity or opportunities to speak at meetings, that sort of thing. And then you've got property owners. So people that own the commercial spaces in your district, not residents, but commercial property owners. Are you providing any sort of service to them? Some districts do, some districts don't. But if you have relationship with them, or you are looking forward to building relationships or filling vacancies in your district, creating some sort of benefit for a property owner could be helpful too, whether that's helping them fill those vacancies or providing opportunities for them to meet potential tenants. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick breather, and we're going to do a quick activity where we're going to think about how can we strengthen our existing benefits. Okay, so if you've got a piece of paper handy, take it out, and a piece of pen and paper, piece of pen, oh God, and write down the following on the paper. We can strengthen one existing benefit by blank. Our next new benefit should serve blank. So thinking about, okay, what's one thing that you do that can be improved? And then what aren't we doing? Who aren't we serving in the district? Who aren't you serving? So this is thinking about what types of businesses aren't engaging with your association. Do you have restaurants engaged? Do you have retailers engaged? Do you have home-based businesses engaged? Who's not engaged? And who do you want to get engaged? And then finally, how do you want to get them engaged? So putting down some new benefit ideas for how to get those different types of businesses that aren't currently involved with your association involved by potential benefits that you could implement in the coming year. So take 2 minutes, write down the answers to these questions, and we'll come right back. Okay, time's up. So is there anybody that wants to share either a way they thought they could strengthen one of their existing benefits or a new benefit that they would want to implement to engage with a different type of business that's not currently engaging with the association? Feel free to chime in, raise your hand. It's a small group today, so if you're having writer's block, that's okay. Yeah, Eleni.
I'll go. So my mind got kind of stuck on, we're trying to figure out who are the businesses that are active and having enough bandwidth to get people out there to like go and search and find out if they're open and who the contact person is, et cetera. So I actually just asked ChatGPT. It's still analyzing, so I'll get back to you on what happens with that. But I'm hoping it's compiling a list with contact info so I can.
I love that. Yes, use technology to your benefit. Uh, if if that helps, that could
Well, I
definitely
mean,
be a good
that's
tool.
been our biggest stumbling block is like actually having the time to get out there on the street and, walk into the businesses and like find out who the right person is. So
Yeah,
we'll see if
it's
this
definitely
helps.
time consuming to kind of get an idea of who's in the district, get their contact info, and get them engaged. So as a board, it's very important to divide and conquer. And we'll talk a little bit about some strategies for how to make that successful, right? Because obviously, certain people are going to have more success engaging with different types of businesses. But depending on the size of your district, yeah, it takes a long time to pound the pavement and to figure that information out. Anybody else have anything they want to share before we move on?
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the things, when you're looking at new businesses to join your business and which ones should we serve that we haven't been serving, we've got a lot of retail stores in our area that are owned by various different corporations. And it goes hand in hand with uh, some of our outreach programs like the back to school program, the shop with a cop, and other things like that. We can get them engaged in terms of offering donations, being mentioned in social media and things like that because of what they've done. So it benefits the onboarding customer, or I guess you'd say, as well as the event that we're having, our like our shred event in the spring. Uh, so I think they're tied together, is what I'm trying to say. They're not separate entities.
Absolutely, yeah. With larger companies and corporate entities, it can be difficult to figure out who's the best person to talk to, and they might even have a corporate policy that keeps them from even joining an association. But giving them opportunities, sponsorship opportunities, donation opportunities, opportunities to host, is a good way to kind of break through that and give them a chance to kind of see what you're all about and maybe eventually join once they kind of have an idea of what the association does. Okay, great. I love these ideas. Keep thinking about that, and I'll send you a template for this so you can kind of think about this with your boards at your next board meeting. Because this should be a group effort, right? It shouldn't be just one person in charge of the entire membership campaign. This should be something the board is talking about regularly. Okay, so next thing we're going to talk about is dues, our dues. And a lot of organizations ask, how much should we charge for dues, or what are other associations charging for dues? And really, it's all over the board, right? Dues, the amount you charge for dues are going to really depend on what you want to do as an organization, how much it's going to cost, how many businesses are in your district, and how many businesses you can really realistically get to join, right? Because that's the revenue that you're going to get to pay for those things. So you want to think about it as a art, not a science. It should provide enough revenue for you to deliver your benefits, and providing options for businesses, because a lot of districts have all different sizes and types of businesses. So most districts will do a sliding scale. Sometimes that's based on number of employees. Sometimes that's based on the type of business, so offering specials for home-based businesses or nonprofits, that sort of thing. Some will even offer a pay it forward, where a business can elect to sponsor a smaller business in the district that might not be able to afford membership. This was really popular during the pandemic, where there was a lot of businesses that were struggling. They wanted to still keep them engaged. So it was a way for the businesses that weren't struggling to kind of show some good faith to those businesses and still ensure that they could participate in the association. You also want to offer incentives for joining early and plan your activities around your membership campaign. So for example, Venture Portland this year, our membership campaign started in mid-December, and we had our grants program due at the beginning of March. So that way, anybody that joined this, that wanted to apply for a grant, had to join in January or February so they could apply for that grant. So thinking about that, what's the thing that will get people motivated to sign up? Is there something coming down the line in the spring or whenever, whatever the timeline shakes out, because every district does it kind of on a different timeline. But is there something that happens a few months after the launch of your campaign that you can kind of use to incentivize businesses to join? Okay, so here's just a quick example of thinking about membership growth. So let's say your major benefits are your street fair, your map, and your mixers. And for the whole year, that costs about $10,500 to produce. Currently, you've got 50 members. They pay $100 a year. That's kind of on the low side. Everything's going up, right, with inflation. So 100 is pretty cheap. Can't do a lot with that these days. But anyways, for the sake of this example, 50 members at $100 a year, that's $5,000. So if you retain your current membership, you got $5,000 to work with. Because you need $10,500 for your programming for the coming year, that leaves you with a $5,500 gap to fill. And you can fill that through other revenue streams. So maybe you're offering advertising space in your map or your website. You're collecting vendor fees through a street fair. You're maybe collecting sponsorship from some of the larger entities in the district. So let's say you're able to collect $5,000 in all those different things over the course of the year. So now you're up to $10,000. So you got a $500 gap to fill. So at $100 a year, it'll be 5 members that you'll need to increase your membership by to fill that gap. So that's a 10% increase year over year. So that's just a general idea of, okay, when you're setting your goal for your membership campaign, how many members do you need to grow by in order to fill that gap in your budget? 10% growth is pretty realistic year over year. Sometimes districts will go a little bit higher, 15, 20%, but kind of keep that in mind. The idea is to grow your members, retain the ones that you have, grow them year over year. Okay, so you thought about all this stuff as it pertains to your membership campaign. It's time to get your house in order. So there's a couple of things to think about before you launch the campaign. One is the membership year, right? Are you operating on a calendar year, a fiscal year? Is it rolling membership? As I said, Venture Portland operates on a calendar year. So we launch our membership campaign in mid-December with the hopes that we'll get all of our members signed up by the time of our annual meeting, which is in April. And we do that because in order for us to elect our board, which comes from our membership at that annual meeting, we want to make sure everybody's signed up. So we have the largest pool to elect our board from. And that's going to help you determine the campaign start and end date. So in this case, the campaign starts in mid-December and ends in early April. Also, your dues, you want to have those figured out. What are the different levels of dues that you're going to be putting onto your materials? Maybe a prorate policy. What happens if somebody wants to sign up midway through the year? Do they pay the full amount? Do they pay partial amount? What we typically do is say they have to pay the full amount, but or they have to pay a prorated amount, but they also have to pay for next year. Right, so that keeps from people joining midway through just for one benefit, and you're not able to get the full amount of those dues. Also, you want to have your business contact list up to date and your payment systems functioning. So making sure those are integrated into your website and you have the ability to capture that payment when the time is come. And then thinking about the complete package of your membership campaign. So the campaign materials, there's a couple of key pieces that you want to have when you're doing solicitations. One is a solicitation letter. So this is a letter on business association letterhead from the business association president that talks about all the great things that your association did in the previous year and all the great things you've got planned for the coming year. And that should be signed. And that's a great way for someone reading it, business owner reading it, to just kind of get an overview of your organization and get an idea of, oh man, if we weren't members last year, here's what we missed out on. But if we join, here's what we can get. You also want to have your benefits sheet. So this is just a bulleted list that outlines everything that you offer throughout the year, what they're going to get as a return on their investment to joining the organization, and should be really clear and really quick. So one page, just so they can kind of scan it and get an understanding of what that looks like. And then the membership form. So both a paper copy that they can fill out and return with a check, or a form on your website where they can put in their information and pay via credit card. A lot of associations will put all this information into a pamphlet or a brochure that can easily be taken around to business district or business visits as they're going from place to place. This is a great thing to be able to hand to someone to really summarize all the things that your association does. This one's from St. John's. You can see it's got an about us kind of that outlines all the things that they do. The middle is their advocacy and their accomplishments. So everything that they did last year. Then they've got a panel for their events, which has all the great posters from all the different things they do throughout the year that really gives a more visual idea of all the different things that they're going to get. Of course, there's a QR code in there. So if someone wants to pay online, they can just click the QR code, go to the website, make it as easy as possible. And if they do go to the website kind of has a mirror of all that information, right? All the information that was in the one pager or the brochure is on the website, just to kind of drive that point home, or for people that aren't getting that hard copy. Everybody's getting the same information and able to kind of quickly digest what the organization does. And then on the right there, you'll see kind of an example of the different levels that they offer. So 1 to 2 employees, 3 to 10, 11 to 30, 31 to 50, 50 plus. This is not the way you have to do it, but for St. John's, this works for them based on the business mix in their district. Okay, so let's talk about the campaign itself. Kevin Costner, he said, if you build it, they will come. He lied. Follow-up is critical when it comes to a business district membership campaign. You've got to ask more than once. You know, it's really easy for folks to look at an email or for them to kind of brush off a business visit. But by being persistent, you're going to be the most successful. You also want to find the best messenger for that messaging, right? So when you're doing visits or doing outreach via phone or email, pair your board members up with other businesses in your district that kind of fit into the same industry, or maybe who are on the same block, or who they have relationships with already. So if you've got a restaurant on your board and you're looking to engage with more restaurants, have that person reach out to the other restaurants in the district. Or if there's somebody on a board member's block that they may or may not have a relationship with, but hey, my business is a few doors down, and I'm part of this business association, and we want you to be a part of it. And here's all the things that we've done. It just kind of lends a little air of credibility. It allows them to relate to the person that's approaching them. But you want to avoid guilt invoices, voicemail. You don't want to nag. You don't want to make them feel bad. You want to make them feel confident that they're going to get a benefit from joining the association. And you want to think of membership as a cycle, right? This is not just a once a year thing, but a year-long process that you're going to be going through. So if you look down towards the left of the graph there, that's your campaign launch. And that's when you're going to be doing the outreach, the asks, the solicitation, the tracking, gathering all the membership dues, all the way up until your annual meeting 3 or 4 months later, right? And then once you've got that, you're going to be doing your board elections. That's the official end of the campaign, but it doesn't stop there, right? You've got to continue to welcome and engage the members, right? Making sure that they understand what's going on in the district. How can they participate? What benefits are coming up that they can take advantage of? And then a few months later, you'll start thinking about, okay, we got to plan next year's campaign. So you got to continue to engage with members, collecting feedback from them. What do they find as valuable that we can use to update our member benefits before the campaign launches again? So thinking about it as a 12-month cycle, it happens throughout the year. So if we're looking at it kind of differently in a kind of list form, in month 1, you're going to be planning your membership campaign with your board. So putting together all those materials that we discussed. Month 2, you're going to be sending out that member packet, either via email or via snail mail, updating that website to make sure that that's current. Month 3, you're going to be tracking, following up, and acknowledging. So making sure that people that do sign up or do renew their membership, they're getting acknowledged that thank you for joining our association, or thank you for rejoining. And anyone that you haven't heard from, following up with them. And that could be via email, via phone, or an in-person visit. Month 4 is your annual meeting. You're going to be electing your board, and those people are going to come from your membership, your existing membership, your new members. Those are the people that are going to be joining your board, and you want to have the biggest pool to draw from. As I said, that's why we have our annual meeting in April, is because that's when we intend to end our campaign, and we'll know who's going to be participating. Month 5, analyze, debrief, celebrate. Did membership grow? What's the feedback you heard from the businesses that maybe said they weren't going to rejoin? Why was that? Did you collect any of that information? Also celebrate, right? This is a huge undertaking for your board. So the fact that it's done and you're able to either maintain your current membership or grow your membership, that deserves a celebration, right? So that could be done during a board meeting, or maybe just a casual happy hour or something that could be done separately from the work that had been done the previous months. And then, of course, throughout the year, through months 1 through 12, that's when you're going to be delivering your benefits and maintaining a line of communication with your members to keep them engaged so they come back next year. So shoot for the moon. Realistically, your campaign should have a goal, right? And that could be to grow membership by 10, 15, 20% year over year, or to have a certain percentage of businesses in the district as members by a specific date. Long term, you also want to have a goal, right? So in 5 years, what percentage of the businesses in the district do we want to have? We have a goal of 25 this year. When do we get to 50? When do we get to 80, right? The goal is to get as many as possible engaged so you feel like you are representing the district as a whole. And this may take some strategy, right? Each year, you might want to target a specific business sector. We want to target larger businesses in the district that aren't currently participating. We want to target retailers that aren't participating, or specific nodes, as we call them, or places in the district where there are businesses but they're not participating, right? So your association or your district might have a central area that a lot of your membership is based out of. But if there's maybe a different intersection in the district that's not currently being represented, maybe focusing on them as a place where you can do some in-person visits to talk about what the association does. So what does that solicitation look like? So a lot of people on your board may not have had the experience of having those conversations with businesses yet. So it's important that you prepare them adequately. And we have a template that I'm going to send out after the lunch and learn that kind of has blanks you can fill in to help them with this. It's essentially a pitch, right? You're selling the membership to the businesses, but you want to make it seem natural, right? You want to build the relationship, and you do that by helping the business understand that you understand their business and telling them how the association has helped their business. And it can't happen without their participation, right? You want to have quantifiable ROI. So those are numbers that you can kind of, from your tracking over the past year, you're going to tell the business, well, we had X number of people at our street fair, or we had we generated X amount of revenue for the businesses in the district, or we grew our social media following by X%, that sort of thing. So what are you tracking, and how can you use that as a talking point when you're talking to businesses? Obviously, you want to have your benefits sheet. That's your main talking point right there, is that list that's going to tell you all the different things that you're going to do for them over the next year. But testimonials also help. So if they can hear from their peers how their peers have benefited from the association, that's going to be really strong, right? They're going to want to be a part of that. So if there's people on your board or members that are willing to write testimonials that you can share, definitely include those in your talking points. And then a payment mechanism, as I said, make it as easy as possible. So having a Square reader or a website, a QR code that leads to a website where they can pay. Make the ask, but also give them a deadline, right? Here's how you join, but you need to join by X date. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to take advantage of this great benefit that's coming up, right? So create a sense of urgency. Otherwise, it's going to be kind of put on a shelf and forgotten about. So talking about, outreach, what works and what doesn't. An email with no follow-up, you might get a 3% return on that. 3% might follow through with renewing their membership. A snail mailed packet, that makes it a little bit higher, right? 15%. People aren't really used to getting things in the mail. And if you can create something sleek and slick and professional looking, maybe you'll get 15% renewals. A phone follow-up call, something more personal, results in a 25% turnover rate, right? You're going to be able to renew 25% of the phone calls that you make. And of course, those in-person asks, when someone's standing there right in front of you and you're having a conversation with them, it's a lot harder to say no, right? So those generally result in a 50% success rate. But it's important to keep in mind, there's no silver bullet, right? The most successful districts have a balanced approach to relationship building, and you need to meet people where they are, whether that's in person, online, or in their mailbox. Every business is going to have a different preference for how they want to be communicated with and what's going to be successful in getting them to understand what you're doing and move forward with joining the association. But like I said, you can't do it alone. You've got to rally your troops. Those are your board members. You might even have a membership committee that's tasked with doing this work, because it is a lot of work. So some tips for getting them engaged and making sure that they're successful is you want to create urgency with a timeline. So make sure everybody on the committee or everybody on the board knows, hey, we've got to have our membership kind of up to date by this specific date, because we've got our annual meeting coming up and we've got to elect our board. Make sure they know that this is not something that they can just be done casually or they can put off to next month. It has to be done now. Provide script. So as I said, sometimes a list of talking points is super helpful for folks that aren't used or experienced to talking about what the association does. You want to capitalize on existing relationships or similarities. So that's people in similar industries or in similar geographies, making sure that those are paired up with the businesses that you're doing outreach to. And then encourage friendly competition. So maybe, whoever gets the most renewals gets a trophy or a bottle of wine or a card or something. It doesn't have to be anything fancy, but sometimes, having a prize is the motivator that gets your board excited, right? And then, of course, follow up, coach, cajole, inspire. If someone is new to this process, they might need a little hand-holding. So follow up with them. How's everything going? Is there anything I can do to help? Are you having any trouble with any specific part of this? And help them to understand what it's all about, and share your experience with them so they can be successful. And then, of course, you want to celebrate that success. At the end of the day, even if they weren't able to get everyone to sign up that they reached out to, it still deserves recognition, right? So making sure to provide that recognition either verbally at a meeting or on a social media post or at a get-together event, that sort of thing. Okay, so that's a lot of talking from me. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and open the floor up to questions or comments. If there's anything anyone wants to share about a membership campaign that they recently did or they've got coming up, we'd love to hear it.
I have a question about finding home-based businesses. Do you have any tips on how to find businesses that don't have a storefront?
Yeah, so the Oregon Secretary of State has a database where you can search business name to get their mailing address. It's not going to give you their phone number or their email address, but it's a way for you to kind of get them on your radar. If you're not sure of the name, a lot of the times putting up kind of like a flyer in a public space in your district, so a coffee shop or other place where they might be working from, is a good way to kind of get them engaged. Put your website on there, contact email address, and invite them to a mixer that might be coming up, so you can kind of meet them in person and collect their information there. But yeah, unfortunately, there's no central database of home-based businesses, so it takes a little bit more effort. A lot of the times, sometimes it's they'll reach out to you via social media, put the information out there, and hope they see it is the best thing to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions or comments?
Might
Yeah, Michael.
point out, Jacob, that business registry of the state of Oregon, you can
Yeah.
search by their name, their personal name, as well as their business name. So if you don't know what their business name is, you can search by personal name. It's been my experience that not everybody puts stuff in there. There's a lot of businesses that don't register. So it's a challenge, but it's one of the areas that you can go in.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, I think unfortunately, yeah, that's as good as we can get as far as a searchable database, right? But a lot of the times, yeah, it's just good old-fashioned networking, right? Talking to other people in your district and seeing who they have relationships with and contact information for, because one person's network might not get you very far, but an entire board's worth, 10 people kind of putting their networks together is a great way to kind of make sure that you've got a lot of the different bases covered. Anything else that anyone wants to share about membership campaigns? I know the holiday season's coming up, so you might not be focusing on the membership campaign at this moment, but people who are on a calendar year, now is a good time to get that started. We usually start ours, as I said, mid-December, just so they can have it on their 2025 books if they want to, and they don't want to wait until 2026. And we also offer kind of an early bird special for districts that sign up in December, just because a lot of the times it's good to have that incentive, right? But making sure, yeah, you have different options. Yeah, Diane.
Hey there, I'm good to see Michael. Both of us are with Raleigh Hills Business Association. And I think that, there's been a lot of really good information this whole presentation. Thank you. I've taken a lot of notes. But I think one of the problems that we're having is there's some larger banks and larger corporations that we would love to be able to get. Our dues are very low, and maybe we should change that or address it. But it's finding the right person. You go to the bank manager or whatever, though, then they'll have to forward the information to, whatever corporate. How do you get to the right person there that could say yes or no for even just the one branch in your area? And then the other thing is we do a lot of very amazing community services. And I don't know that a lot of even the smaller individual companies or smaller retailers think that that's going to be a benefit to them, but it does in the long run. I could attest to that. Overall, give the community a better feeling about the Raleigh Hills Business Association, for example. But I feel like we're missing the link a little bit, just providing our businesses with good business helpful content. So two things completely, big and small in content. So do you have
No, those are great questions. Great. And with banks, a lot of them are very eager to participate if, like you said, if you can find the right person. And usually the right person there is kind of a business development role at the bank. And I know a lot of banks will have staff listed on their website, but if not, calling and asking for the business development person might be your best way to go, because a lot of the times those people will actually get paid to volunteer on your board because they see it as a great opportunity to recruit new clients, right? So banks and credit unions are a great resource for a business association, not only for volunteers for your board, but also for sponsorships for your events and things like that. Like they have a much bigger budget for those types of things than a typical, small 1 to 5 person business.
Great.
And then, I think the point you made about, a lot of the programming that your association does is as benefit to the community, which I think is really great and important. But thinking about what types of benefits you can offer specifically for the businesses themselves, just because a lot of the community-focused things are handled by neighborhood associations, and that's kind of separate from the business. Usually the business association might have different goals and things like that. So taking a look at your budget and saying, how much is it costing us to do this community programming? And is there a program that, maybe could be swapped with something more business focused, whether that's doing, mixers or some sort of promotional campaign, either during the holidays or during a specific time of year, taking some, funds from your budget to allocate towards that and try something new for the businesses that might provide more benefit for them and might result in more businesses wanting to join.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, Lenny.
I have a question specifically around like how to increase dues. We're not necessarily adding any more benefits, but we do fall into that category that you were illustrating earlier of like $100, which is just not quite enough to really operate. So is there like a general rule of thumb in what somebody might increase on an annual basis to just cover the escalating costs of things? Part one. Part two to the question, kind of what are you hearing? Because it seems like a lot of businesses don't have money right now. So we don't want to lose people, because if they feel like they can't pay more, but how might we get a little more?
Yeah, you definitely, I would say anything above like a 50% increase in dues is going to be kind of jarring for folks, right? They don't have that built into their budgets, or especially if you're not increasing your membership. A way to kind of accommodate some of the businesses that might not be able to cover an increase in dues is offering a specific dues rate for first-time members, right? So lure them in with a low rate if it's their first time joining the association, and then the following year they would have to pay the same rate as everyone else. That can be effective as well. But there are also, different things that you can kind of get creative with around how you're positioning yourself as an organization and the things that you do, right? So you might not be offering any new benefits, but maybe you're growing existing benefits, right? So, we did something last year and we're anticipating on it being a lot larger this year, right? So as the benefits grow year over year, that can kind of be a good excuse or reason to why the benefit dues are increasing, aside from just everything's more expensive now because of inflation and just the state of our economy. So that's kind of a tip, but it's never easy to increase that. There's always going to be some pushback. Okay, well, we are right about at time. So I want to thank you all for being here today and for your thoughtful questions. And I will be following up tomorrow with a link to the recording, the slides, and some resources that we talked about. So feel free to share those with your boards and reach out if you have any other questions as you get into your membership campaigns. So have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.